It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Jason, Andy, and Alex are here. We'll talk about Apple's plans to move out of China. It's going to take a little longer than you might think. What happened at the Atlanta store and the St. Louis store with unionization efforts, two completely different outcomes. And then we're all going to sing as Apple adds karaoke to Apple Music. Yes, it's going to be great. Stay tuned. MacBreak Weekly is next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 847, recorded Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. Want to see my Eddys? MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can fill any job you're hiring for this holiday season. And 4 out of 5 ZipRecruiter employers get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it free at ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. And by Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. Are you wasting money on subscriptions? Who isn't? Cancel your unnecessary subscriptions right now at rocketmoney.com/MacBreak. Seriously, it could save you hundreds a year. And by CacheFly. CacheFly is the only CDN built for throughput, delivering rich media content up to 10 times faster than traditional delivery methods and 30% faster than other major CDNs. Learn how you can get your first month free at CacheFly.com. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. And it looks like I have a backwards Leo behind me, which is it's very strange. I think the N is hiding. It's Noel. Anyway, Christmas has arrived in the Twit studios. Happy holidays, everybody. And joining us for MacBreak Weekly, Mr. Jason Snell from 6colors.
I didn't hang any tinsel. I don't have any lights. Oh, no. I didn't get the memo, Leo. Jeez, you're showing us up here.
At least
I was waiting until next week.
A Festivus poll.
Boy, all I got is my lava lamp and my
It is a red lava
Stanford
lamp.
axe.
If you got a green lava
whatever.
lamp, you'd be done. That's all you need.
Oh, that's a great
and
idea.
I just realized
I'll
you
away.
have a Eddie Award behind you, don't you?
I do have an Eddie Award behind there, a Macworld Eddie Award.
They're zooming.
It's,
John Ashley doesn't know where to zoom in.
It's right.
It's the
there.
gold thing. It
looks like an Oscar.
Yeah.
You know.
Looks like
I had to guess.
When I left, we used to make. We made extras because we didn't know the order time for an Oscar-style statuette, believe it or not, is it's kind of a long order, and we didn't always have the exact same number of winners every year, so we would have extras. And there was a period there where we put the year on the statuette, which we stopped doing because it meant that if you got the number wrong, you had an extra expensive statuette, and what are you going to do with it? I don't know. What are you going to do with it? Maybe eventually one of the editors will take it home.
You know what's funny is I searched for Eddie Awards, and ever since you guys gave up the ghost on the Eddie Awards, all these people, the Eddie Awards is an annual event to celebrate Duval County's leading teachers. The Eddie Awards at theeddieawards.com for the independent artist's biggest night, but there's more. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
the Eddie
I'm not
Award
sure if we ever had
for
the trademark
pensions,
on it.
Apparently not. For pensions and investments, there's an Eddie. Don't forget the Eddie.
Yeah, but none of them are an Oscar-esque figure holding a Mac SE above their head.
No.
Shot putting NSE, running System 7 and crashing for the nth time during close to deadline.
It was originally the original Mac, and when they had to, for some reason, they had to redraw the statuette. I wonder if maybe Oscars called them and said, you need to make some slight changes. But they did it. I think it's an SE or maybe it's a classic, but they did actually update the Mac.
The little man, instead of holding a sword, as in the Academy Awards, he's holding a Mac, which is really cool, like this. Yeah, that's great. Or is it over his head?
It's over his head.
It's over his head, like Atlas.
Right, so he may die if he drops it, but he's very strong.
Drop the Mac. Andy Anako is also here from WGBH in Boston.
Like Larry Bird at the three-point line. Just foof, swish.
Swish. Just shoot that Mac Classic. Just shoot it. Nothing but net.
Last thing I do before I switch to Windows, damn it. I want real multitasking, not just switcher, damn it.
And my friends, Mr. Alex Lindsay from officehours.global and 090.media. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
Hello. So, there's a lot of little bits. I guess the biggest story is, of course, China. We've talked about it for the last couple of weeks. The unrest in China is lighting a fire under Apple to get production moved out. Wall Street Journal. Go ahead.
I think it's all the things are getting Apple to move.
Yeah, all together. It's Taiwan. I think it's the unrest.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of reasons, and I think this is a good time for Apple because they're not picking it randomly. There's like, well, you've got all these other issues, and it's really shown a problem with why we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be completely leaning on it, but I think everyone's thinking about it.
Yeah. Also, Tim Cook today is with President Biden and a couple other people at the new TSMC plant in Arizona. I think one of the first really big, it was like a $40 billion plant. Like when the first, I think one report was saying was the largest foreign investment in U.S. manufacturing.
Yeah, it wasn't initially it was $12 billion when we reported. Yeah. They just upped it to 40.
Yeah.
Largest foreign direct investment in the history of the United States, or at least one of them. Yeah.
And it can't make like Apple's latest chips. I think it's originally they announced it was going to be 5 nanometer process, but then they said actually we're going to be doing 4 nanometer chips there too. But Apple has already said that we're going to have some of our production, some of our silicon produced there. Obviously not the thing that goes into like the silicon Mac Pro, but this is what happens when the government says we're making it a national issue that we want to have more manufacturing in the United States, and that's to say nothing about like the Wall Street Journal had news about Apple trying to get more iPad production in India, and like we've been talking about week after week after week. Alex is right. Apple has so many reasons to want it to spread its bets around right now, and now there's opportunity to do so because there's so much competition or so much desire to scoop up all the people who are leaving or trying to take some of their business out of China right now.
Of course, Foxconn's Zhengzhou plant is called iPhone City. 300,000 workers, and due to revolts, but partly against the zero COVID policy, partly against the lack of bonuses promised to new workers, they're losing 40% of the production, according to Apple, this month. That's a big drop.
That journal story is really interesting. I am not a believer. I know that some people are believers in like Apple doing tactical leaks to the press, and I don't believe that happens very often. However, the Saturday before Joe Biden is going to be at the TSMC plant, and Wall Street Journal on a Saturday, which is, not your best day for the Wall Street Journal, honestly, does a story where Apple kind of inches away from China. That feels a little more planted to me. But as we've been saying here for weeks and months and years, how Apple does need to diversify, but when does it do it? And the journal story basically says that they seem to be in denial for a long time. But I think the 1-2 punch of that Mac shutdown in Shanghai and then this new issue with the iPhone has engaged them a little bit more and also given them, as we've said, more of an excuse to start the process going on. The journal story, it's funny, that journal story, not everybody has read it, right? Because the journal's behind a paywall. I'm a News Plus subscriber, so as part of the Apple bundle, so I can read Wall Street Journal articles inside the Apple News app. And having read that article and then seeing how some blogs sort of restate it, I think they lost some nuance because, like, I've seen stories that are like Apple is moving out of China, and it's like Apple is going to begin to think about the process of starting to ponder how they might move some production or assembly out of China a little bit, and it is the first step in a process, and it's them specifically saying Vietnam and India, but even then, the journal article's like, easy. This is not easy. Easier said than done. Vietnam's population is so small that to get the size of the factories that Apple has in China, you kind of have to find like a large part of the population, which is not going to happen. And then in India, they've got the size in terms of the population, but India is a democracy with a lot of different states that all have their own regulations. So they can't just make a deal with Modi and shake hands and then be done. They have to go to every individual state that they want to potentially locate in. So the journal article feels really tactical to me, but at the same time, I think a lot of people have re-reported it as way more definitive than it is. It really is like Apple doing a little bit of a head nod and saying, we know.
And it's a giant ship. to turn, and so it just doesn't have the trim that you would have with a little cigarette, and so it's just like you're talking about a huge barge that needs to get turned, and it's gonna take 5 or 10 years for them to really do what they need to do, but they do need to start at some point in time. You have to say, we're going to start building something somewhere else. And they've already done that a little bit in India, Vietnam, Brazil, somewhat because of other regulations, but they have to diversify it because, we've seen this. One thing we saw in COVID was the problem with being tied into one thing. Like a lot of the stuff that we see sitting on the sidelines right now, especially in the AV world, but also in cars and everything else, was one fire in Japan. The AKM fire basically stopped all analog to digital conversions. And we've seen this in the past. Sony, the big how they taped all the TV shows ended during the earthquake because the only place to make those was destroyed. And then we had hard drive issues in Thailand. This idea that we can centralize, we've kind of almost gone the opposite way, where we've centralized certain things where you build entire communities or cities around a product, and it may not be in our country, but it's not diversified. It's not really a global supply chain. It's a very local supply chain, just not in the United States. And so I think everyone is getting clear. And I think, again, China is going to be the epicenter, everyone moving away because of, and mostly, I think it actually is going to mostly be, they'll use COVID as cover, but it's really Taiwan. Like China, all this saber rattling has everybody shaken up over what might happen next.
Yeah. And now the big difference is that we're seeing a lot of analysts are posting numbers on how many iPhone 14s they think Apple's going to be short this quarter. I think I've seen numbers as low as 2 million and as high as 6 million that they're just not. And it's one thing to have this sort of abstract thing of, well, gosh, we're going to have a hard time making capacity. We're going to might have to prioritize one channel over another. But no, it's like, no, there's 6 million, upwards of 6 million phones that should have been available to the market this quarter that are not going to be there, and that's going to be affected right on the balance sheet. And that's where the conversations get a lot tougher.
The headline is Apple makes plans to. This is the Journal headline, and when you read it, you see that it's just. I agree with you, Jason. Very good analysis. It's Apple. You just almost feel Tim Cook behind the scenes, the puppet master. Pulling the strings with China, pulling the strings with Biden, pulling the strings with the Journal. Just, he's amazing. His diplomatic skills are amazing. This is the headline. Apple makes plans to move production out of China. That's probably not a revelation. And then the subtitle, the iPhone maker is looking to further diversify the supply chain. So it is much softer than anybody might assume if you read the blog post. To me, the thing that stood out was this number, which I'd never seen before. That iPhone City has 300,000 workers. Where do you build a factory? Where in the world? Maybe, you're right, India maybe, but where you can get 300,000 people in one place.
And you don't want them in one place
for
anymore.
low-paying jobs.
That's the whole point.
Well, that's another problem. Yeah. But can you? I don't know. That's an interesting question. You have such efficiencies of scale in China because you have all the suppliers. They do just-in-time delivery to one spot, one plant, right? Where you have everybody there who can assemble the thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to imagine, we're going to have 15 plants. What does that mean? You're going to drop ship these all over the world? It's not. I can see why Tim Cook's going, and he's the supply chain guru.
Yeah. I mean, and part of it is just the machinery. And I'm not just talking about the actual machines in China assembling products, but the ability to put in a change in the hardware or change in the workflow, or we need this to be flashed at this step instead of this other step. The ability to make that change without having to say, okay, we're going to have to stop everything. We need 4 days to retool, to rechange everything. They are so good at those factories at keeping that line going, at adapting to the needs of, specifically for Apple, because let's not forget that a lot of the machinery that is in a lot of those factories are doing the hottest chips and the hottest fab are machinery that Apple essentially bought and paid for by saying we need a factory that can assemble glass to this tolerance, and then Foxconn will say, great, we will build one to that specification, because if you guys want it today, then Samsung and everyone else is going to want it 2 years from now. We're good.
You can also see why this number precludes doing it in America, right? I think there are a lot of people, I'm sure President Biden included, the CHIPS Act was a huge $200 billion congressional funding for building chip plants in the U.S. That's why TSMC is doing that. By the way, that TSMC plant, they say, is eventually going to do the 3 nanometer process. They're not ruling it out, just won't be doing it right away. But if I mean, I can imagine that the Congress and the administration would love to have iPhones made in the U.S. That's completely out of the picture, isn't it? Or is
not
it?
if you want to pay what you're paying right now for an iPhone. Most people.
I mean, how much more would it cost?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it would necessarily be prohibitive, but it would be significant. And the thing is, we have a much stronger labor movement, as weakened as it has become in the past 20 or 30 years. We have a very, very good labor movement in the United States, and we would not tolerate being able to having to pay $130 for a 4-pack of underwear.
Yeah.
And
well,
the reason
it's
why
ironic because that's what this is. Ultimately, in Zhengzhou, is a labor movement. Workers are striking. They're unofficially. They're saying, "Stand up for your rights." You know,
they're saying specifically that, number one, they were put into hazardous situations where people who tested. They're saying people on campus who in the factory campus that have tested positive for COVID are not being isolated. They're also saying that the people who were being recruited in to travel to take these jobs were promised bonuses on the specific schedule. They show up and they say, "Oh, by the way, we won't be paying you on this schedule. You'll have to work longer and later and take less money." And they said, "Go to hell. We're gonna get nice set of gates. Wonder what it would look like if we were smashed and laying on the ground." And those are the people who got beaten with sticks by cops. That's not a good look.
It's also we should say also in America you can't flip that switch, right? It takes time. Like this is you put the chip plant in, you put other parts of the equation in, and then what happens is very slowly, right? Because TSMC's concern was they also have to have people to run the plant, and they've got to get the materials from the outside, and this is a thing where the U.S. hasn't done some of this stuff in a while, and so you need to have, not only is it like the universities and all of that, but it's the infrastructure that builds up around it. So what you do is you put something in and you pay that premium. You pay a lot more than it's actually, right? I think the president of TSMC said 50% more per chip, basically, out of this factory.
Wow.
So it's a huge premium, but you know, the U.S. says we're willing to pay it to have this in the U.S. And what you want to see is very slowly an ecosystem grow around it where everybody says, oh, well, we want to be next to the TSMC plant, or we want to be able to hire away some of the people who are working at TSMC to work at Intel or whatever. And so we're going to be in Phoenix. And then you look back in 10 years, maybe, and in that area in Phoenix, suddenly a burgeoning kind of a chip and manufacturing ecosystem has grown. But right now, it's like it was dropped down from space. That's how you start.
Well,
but we're paying the price for it.
It's never going to happen. And what are the odds, do you think,
that
China will get a lid on these protests because they'll roll tanks and that event, it'll go away, and in 6 months, everybody go, back to business as usual, because it's the best way to do it.
Yeah,
Alex.
I just don't think it's about. I think it's about Taiwan. Like, everyone's afraid of Taiwan. Everyone's afraid that at some point China's going to go into Taiwan, and then they can't politically continue to manufacture in China. Like the way that when you saw in Russia, any country that held out even for a week was basically a traitor. And so even people just wanted a moment to think. You weren't allowed to do that, and it's going to be way worse because we're much more attached to Taiwan than we were to the Ukraine. And so it's not going to be defendable. Like, Apple will have to shut down the factories in China if they go into Taiwan. And, and then they'll be left with whatever they got done between now and then. So it probably won't be perfect, but it's all about, I believe that it's all about Taiwan. And
if China
I think
invades Taiwan, the least of our worries are going to be where we're going to make our iPhones.
Well, it's going to be a big worry for Apple. I mean, the thing is,
let me tell you, that's World War III. That's not nice.
We'll
just roll over and say, yeah, go ahead. Biden keeps saying, no, we're going to defend Taiwan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that China's got a lot of problems internally, and so we want to keep on applying that pressure. If everyone did stop doing work in China, the economy would, become pretty unhinged pretty quickly in China as well. So it would, and they have their own. China has a growing number of problems internally that they have to kind of manage. They've peaked, right? China's peaked.
Yep.
It's now putting out. It's going to be putting out fires pretty fast, and so. But the point is that regardless of what would happen, going into Taiwan would be a big deal for everyone. And I think everyone's trying to figure that out. Also, Foxconn has been working on fully automated, warehouses and not succeeding yet. but they have been working on that for a decade. So they've been building, pieces of these, and they keep on adding more and more automation. So if it comes to the United States, it's not going to be 300,000 people. It's going to be 30,000. It's going to be, they're going to cost more, but there'll be a lot less of them.
Robots?
Yeah, robots. That's what Foxconn spends a lot of money. And the reason that they haven't had to accelerate that is because the wages are so low. So a lot of times when wages are low, there's a lot of automation that's available at a certain price. It's kind of like with drilling oil. Like, we can get cheap oil and then we get expensive oil. And once you get to a certain point, you'll just start putting the machines in to do it. And that's what we did. The Mac Pro, for the trash cans, the Mac Pros were built in mostly by robots.
Not very well, right?
Well, I don't know if they didn't work, but I think that was more of a design issue than an assembly issue.
I don't know. I traded one in. The first one I got had all sorts of mechanical issues.
But a lot of the problems that machines aren't very good at, they're not good at looking at something complex and then trying to figure out how to nudge it one way or the other to make it work. AI is going to make that better and better and better and better, where it can figure that stuff out relatively quickly. And so, a lot of the, anything that's a rote assembly has got maybe 10 or 15 years left before it's almost all a machine.
Yeah. I wanted to say something about just the idea of, we were talking about Taiwan and contingencies and all of that. I think the truth is we may look back on this on 5 or 10 years in the future and say, well, it didn't happen, so this was all not worth it. And they didn't need to diversify from China. It all worked out. They put all that money into India and into Vietnam and into building chip factories here in the U.S. And we didn't actually need to do any of that. But I also think that part of it is they're playing the game here, right? Which is, if it doesn't happen, one of the reasons it doesn't happen may be because of the diversification, right? That you want to take the pressure off a little bit and say, look, China, not all of our stuff is in your country anymore, and that is part of the larger picture here. I don't know. It is, fundamentally, if I'm Tim Cook, I am looking at severing ties with China like so much of the Western world did with Russia as an extinction level event. And so for me, it's just like, I need to have a fallback site, even if it is more expensive and lower production and not something that's a long-term solution. It's better than no knowledge, right? Like literally, like we don't even know how to start. They're doing that part now, even if it's not very realistic in the near term.
And the equation that I use for risk is the chances of something happening multiplied by the consequences.
Yeah,
so
it's
even
like
if the
an
chances are
asteroid
very
hit.
small, the chances are very small, but the consequences are very big, and that means the risk is high.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that as Jason points out every single quarter with his scripts, the biggest chunk of Apple's profit pie is still hardware by a long stretch. They're doing a great job of getting money from services, but if anything causes iPhone sales to tank, that's going to hurt a lot. That's going to be when you hear like people say, oh well, they're turning down the heat on the Apple Car project, where they're turning down the heat on these other projects that they don't know if it's going to be a business yet. But fortunately, Apple, they'd have to have 5 really bad years before they even change the grade of coffee in the cafeteria.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this also gets into like where should Apple keep its cash position, because a lot of times it's giving away a lot of that money back in dividends. It's doing lots of buybacks. At some point, it may want to build up a little bit of cash. For a while, Apple had a problem that their cash position was so high that it became complicated for them because they have too much cash for their market cap. But the market cap now is so high they could afford to increase that cash position to buffer themselves a little bit more in case something happened.
According to CNBC, Apple's looking at making the iPad in India. This is CNBC's sources are close to the Indian government, so it may just be the Indian wishful thinking from the Indian government. The problem, of course, lack of manufacturing expertise. It's funny how this was a cascade of problems, starting with supply chain issues and now zero COVID and riots in the factory. I mean, it really has been coming on for a year.
Well, and I think as Jason talked about last week, I think it's not just that there's zero COVID, it's that China still could not manage a COVID outbreak. And the reason they have zero COVID is that if it actually gets out,
right,
there's gonna be all kinds of trouble, and they'll have a whole new set of problems of just incredible mortality rates because they don't have an effective vaccine and they don't have the hospitals to manage that's why they're doing all of that, of course. And so it's, so that's still looming over them.
Yeah. There's a reason why they had zero COVID. It wasn't just President Xi's good idea.
And they haven't gotten any further ahead. They're not reaching any version of herd immunity. So all that COVID just keeps, hanging over them.
Yeah, we've kind of seen this, haven't we? We've seen this play out. That there is a certain advantage. There is a certain advantage to letting people get sick.
Or getting them vaccinated, but between vaccination and getting sick, the United States now has a fair amount of herd immunity,
right?
Between infection and vaccination.
42% of all U.S. Americans have gotten COVID, and half of them lie about it. Say they haven't. You guys, I'm on to you.
Right,
yeah, I fully admit it. You've gotten it. I know, Alex.
Yeah, I got it on the show.
Yeah, you actually got it on the show.
I actually had it.
I got it.
It actually
man.
was on set on the show.
God.
Kept it in the family.
Kept it in the family. Thank God we're on Zoom.
Alex is very, very loyal. That's one of the things we love about him.
I mean, if you're gonna get COVID, do it for hashtag content, right?
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, a big thanks to Zoom ISO, Andy Carluccio, and the Zoom folks, and our engineers who we're using a little bit of a different kind of Zoom today on the show, and I don't know if you've noticed, but it's a lot better for the hosts because they're all in a single call, which means they can see and talk to each other and so forth. And
it's so much better.
Cool. Yeah. You don't have, John Ashley, a picture of what they see that you could pull up? Like what they're seeing, because they're seeing something different from what you're seeing at home.
Well, if I want to get, let me do a little routing.
This might be a little complicated.
Well, it's not complicated. I just got to do.
He's got to do some routing magic. I've now figured out that this did say Noel, but they've black taped the N in the Noel, hidden it behind some trees, and now it says sort of backwards letter Leo, which is, I guess. Good. There's a bunch of Easter eggs. Oh, there we go. So this is what you guys see.
Oh, that's
which is much more like a Zoom call that everybody's familiar with. In the past, all they've seen is what we're streaming, or we're putting out on the podcast, which is the current shot. You have a fifth screen, which we're not showing, that shows you what the current shot is, the program.
Oh, this is me like cutting it right now.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. That's cool.
No,
Good.
it's big because it was like 2 second delay and now it's less than a second. And so everybody's like, why do you interrupt each other? And it's like, not only can we hear what's going on, not delayed, but I can also see when Andy is leaning forward and getting ready to talk.
That's huge.
And so I know, that Andy's got it. Yeah, it's big.
We're doing it on all our shows. This is the first time we've done it on MacBreak Weekly that's worked, and it's really great. So thank you, John Ashley,
I've
for
done it
putting
without
extra.
the help of Jammer B.
I know. Jammer B's out for hip surgery. He was the only one who knew how to do it. He's slowly got, past the knowledge.
So what's funny
down.
is we were actually she was going to try to train all of us to do it. Yeah. However, the times you try to do it, there was some small issues that popped up.
Leo
we were
was
trying to do it before
on the show and stuff and things like that. So now almost everybody knows how to do it, which is good. And we're
slowly.
It's a big improvement, I think. Slowly. I probably shouldn't mention it though, right? Because it's going to break as soon as I mention. No, it's not. It's not going to break. All right, let's take a little break. Speaking of breaks. And come back. There is more to talk about, lots more, lots of little stories, and one more big story, speaking of unions. But first, a word from our sponsor, ZipRecruiter. There are great jobs out there in the world, and there's great employees. ZipRecruiter's mission is to bring the two together. Right now, a great time. A lot of businesses hiring for the festive jobs, turkey catcher, bilingual Santa Claus, nut gift basket assembler, reindeer wrangler. Believe it or not, I am not making any of those jobs up. They are listed on ZipRecruiter. So, wow, any kind of job, a lot of good seasonal jobs out there. If ZipRecruiter can find a nut gift basket assembler, they can fill any role, I can guarantee you. We've used ZipRecruiter for years as the way, and the thing about hiring is you're always doing it, kind of with some urgency. At least we are. Somebody, because we have such a great staff, when somebody leaves, goes to another job or, whatever, decides not to work here, so I can't take working with that Leo anymore. Then we are down a person, and we have 15 people. Down a person is a big deal. So it's important that we fill that job fast. When we go to ZipRecruiter, it works so well. It works so well for a number of reasons. First thing, of course, when you post a job opening on ZipRecruiter, It goes out to all the job boards, like 100 plus job boards and social media. It goes out to it casts the widest possible net. But don't worry, because those applicants aren't going to jam your phone lines or fill your email. Every applicant goes into the ZipRecruiter interface, and the ZipRecruiter interface is so great. Makes it easy to rank everybody, eliminate the people you don't want, hire the right person fast. It reformats all the resumes so it's easy to scan them. It gives you screening questions so you can, screen out people who are just not right for the job. And then there's the secret sauce that ZipRecruiter does. That's so cool. Their technology finds the right candidate for your job. It actually scans through all the applicants they've got on file, finds the people who are perfect, and then sends you their names and says, these guys might be right. You invite the ones you like to apply, and I have to say, our experience has been, and I think this is really true globally, when you invite somebody to apply for a job, say, hey, I saw your resume. You look like you'd be great for this job. They are so much more likely to, go through the process. They tend to be the best candidates. It's all handled from that easy-to-use dashboard where you can filter, review, rate your candidates. And I can tell you this, when we post on ZipRecruiter at breakfast, I'm always amazed. Lisa will say, before lunch, hey, here's a good one. Oh, here's another good one. What's another one? 4 out of 5 employers, we're not alone, who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter helps you find qualified candidates fast. Try it free, ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. MacBreak. We thank you so much, ZipRecruiter, for your support all these years, for helping us hire the best people fast. And we thank you, dear MacBreak listener and viewer, for using that address so that way they know you saw it here. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. Thank you, ZipRecruiter. All right, we have recaffeinated and are ready for round 2. It's funny, when I was in real radio, often I was told, and this was true in TV too, don't do stories about unions, about labor. They're the kiss of death. People just tune them right out. Nobody's interested. But I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's a pretty big story. The NLRB is now weighing in, saying Apple's anti-union tactics in Atlanta were illegal. But by the way, there's more to this story, but that's the first bit of this. U.S. Labor Board prosecutors have determined that Apple has violated federal law. What do? They're interrogated and coerced employees in Atlanta. They also concluded Apple held mandatory anti-union meetings during which management made coercive statements. Now Apple's turn to settle. Otherwise, a complaint will be issued. Apple did not have a response. This is from Bloomberg today. Communication Workers of America have been trying to unionize at the Atlanta store. Now, the second part of this story is kind of interesting, though. In St. Louis, this is from 9 to 5 Mac, Apple store employees the union called off a union vote. Apple employees at the St. Louis Galleria store were the latest to move toward unionization last month. 1 week after submitting interest, the group abandoned the plan. The union cited increased hostility from Apple, but the employees now say no. We did a straw poll and nobody wanted it, so we canceled it.
I mean,
those were 2 different unions, though.
Which is weird. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers.
Yeah, that's
a different union than the communication workers.
Yeah, and it's particularly scummy because when the IAM withdrew the vote, they basically said, oh well, there's too much intimidation and there's too much this and that. And then basically the 60 of the 80 employees in St. Louis basically said, yeah, we're going to sign this document that starts with, we are not being coerced or dictated to an Apple in any way. What they're saying is BS. We're not going to vote for it anyway. And so apparently they wanted to get some sort of a victory. And so rather than let us vote them down, they decided to withdraw the election. Yeah. So yeah, I think that happens
all the time. By the way, if you propose a union election, then realize you aren't going to win it. Why even go forward, right?
And it depends on what employees are involved. So and a lot of this comes down to management. Like the quality of the management, even at the individual store, and how the employees feel. If employees think that they have upward mobility,
Right.
they don't want to touch the union, and they don't want to be tarnished with the union as they look at the potential of going into management or going into to Apple. People who work at Apple stores sometimes think that someday they'll end up at Cupertino. If you work at a store that's unionized, you'll never be in Cupertino.
Yeah.
That's a zero.
Yeah.
And so
They don't want the infection to spread. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. Exactly. No, they won't put, and this is
the Apple
this is
zero
Apple.
Union policy.
This is not Apple. This is every company. Every company, once you're in the union, when you join the union, you're saying, I don't think it's going to get any better here.
Yeah.
So I would like to do something to ensure that I get what I need. Whereas, and that's a management problem because if they don't feel like there's an opportunity upward, they're going to take the ground that they have now. If they feel like it's going upward, then they don't want to be in the union because they know that they'll never get there. Like it's basically unionizing is basically like, I give up. I'm not going to go any further than here, and I want to ensure that I have the rights that I have right here. And that's when management fails. To give them the feeling that it's worth it, that it's worth being there. So
or
I think
fails, or let's face it, fails to take care of them properly.
Exactly.
Does things like saying, hey, we're not going to pay you for the hour you spend in line getting searched as you go home. Things like that. That's when you get a union. And that's appropriate.
That's so, and it comes down to it will come down to store by store too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's very interesting because what happened in St. Louis is very different than what happened in Atlanta, right? The St. Louis people said, no, we just decided we didn't want it. In Atlanta, it sounds like, according to the NLRB, some pretty serious anti-union tactics were employed by Apple.
This was an actual finding by the NLRB. It means nothing when you see that. Oh well, gosh, you can go on the NLRB site and see what complaints have been lodged against which companies. That doesn't mean anything. It means something if they actually take action, and that was pretty obvious that was going to happen here because those are really simple, clear rules that if a company has to allow people to communicate and communicate and organize about possibly forming a union, you can't interfere with that. And there are specific ways that you're outlining saying you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And at least at that Apple store, they did this, that, and that other thing too.
Yeah.
So two different stories, but it is weird that all these very, very weird unions are trying to get more membership by claiming that, okay, well, are they information workers? Are they ATSI? Are they truckers? Are they whatever? It's going to be hard, but it does show that a lot of the complaints that they're consistently being made by these individual stores are the same complaints that are being made pretty much all across retail, where it's like you're basically treating us not as valued employees, not as people who have experience and do our jobs very, very well, but as essentially sacks of rice that you can buy more, you can buy less. You don't really care what happens to the sacks of rice. You can schedule them regularly, you can schedule them irregularly. You can basically they're asking for, as I think Alex put it very, very well, that it is sad that if you do try to work with a union, that it does put a ceiling on you in terms of further advancement with a lot of organizations. However, if you're saying that, look, I am not under the delusion that this is a ground floor towards having an office, having a line on the Apple org chart that answers directly to Tim Cook. I just want a really good retail job within my immediate community that I enjoy, and I want these conditions to be better than they are right now. If Apple is holding themselves to be, this green company, this human rights company, I should be treated much better than someone who works at Walmart, and I'm not getting that.
And I doubt that there's this mass desire to move to Cupertino when you get a job at the Apple store. I wonder though how many. But it's not just not moving to move. It's not just moving.
Go ahead. I actually know folks that started at the Apple store and ended up in Cupertino. So it's not that it's not an unknown. Definitely not unheard of. I've actually know multiple people that have done that, and so the ones that we worked with in the San Francisco store. So anyway, but I think that and there's also chances to move up within the retail area. Apple isn't Cupertino is not the only place Apple has offices. Right. So there's lots of things that are available, even just moving up within that rank. And if you're in the top in any place that wants to unionize, if you feel like you're one of the top 25%, 20% performers, the union's not good for you. Like they're not for you. They're for everybody else. And so you're going to be held back by being caught up in the group, and so folks that are on that front edge always want to, if they generally always don't want to be part of a union. And obviously a bunch of people in St. Louis felt like they were. Yeah. And that mostly has to do with their manager, that they're taken care of. They feel like they're,
I have to assume that, the benefits are the same at all stores, right? It's not, you don't get a different salary or different benefits if you're working in Atlanta than St. Louis, or do you? It's more like how you're treated.
But it's probably how you're treated, and it's little things like that Andy talked about. It's how you're scheduled, and are you getting paid for it, and how just really how you're.
And that's up to the manager. But things like whether people are moving up and so forth, they're probably the same across the board, I would imagine.
Yeah. More or less.
Yeah.
And they do actually pay better than, it's not as though they're paying minimum wage, state or federal minimum wage per state. They actually pay very well. As a retail job goes, it's very good, but that doesn't mean that it sucks to have to be on call for several days in which you're not being paid, and you're expected that, well, we put you on the schedule for Thursday, even though you told us that you can't possibly do Thursday afternoon, but we put you on the schedule anyway. Tough to hand in your card if you don't want to do that.
So apparently Tim Cook is right now speaking at the TSMC groundbreaking in Arizona. And he says, apparently in his speech...
This is Tim. I'm the CEO
good morning.
Of Apple. Tim Cook. Tim Cook is my name.
No.
Good morning.
The quote. Good morning. He said, we've already made a decision to be buying out of a plant in Arizona. This plant in Arizona starts up in 24. So we've got about 2 years ahead of us on that one, maybe a little less. And in Europe, I'm sure Tim is such a diplomat. And in Europe, I'm sure we'll also source from Europe as those plans become more apparent. He said this at the meeting, which included Apple Services Chief Eddie Q and Head of Retail and Human Resources Deirdre O'Brien talking to the employees at the new plant. Or no, maybe he's talking to Apple employees. Yeah, it was an internal meeting in Germany with local engineering and retail employees. Okay. So this is not speaking at the plant. This was in Germany.
Yeah.
Still, will the one of the Apple blogs, I think 9 to 5 said the A chips will never be made at TSMC, but the Wall Street Journal story did say, in fact, that the plan was at some point to get those 3 nanometer processes working there. I don't know how hard that is. What I do know is that they can't get it in China because that is technology blocked. By Biden.
So much of what's going on in the world today, especially and in China, has to do with that block. The fact that China can't even buy the really good vaccines, even if they were inclined to do so, and sort of admit that their own vaccines were not very good. They're not allowed. No American company is allowed to sell like American vaccines to China, and that's. The blowback from all the espionage, the industrial espionage that's been going on, the assurance that, look, if we allow anything to be manufactured in China, they will steal that process and they will start basically making their own knockoffs of whatever that is. It really is biting them in the butt, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that people are dying about it. I wish there were better, but there's a lot of, but that's a complicated problem.
We have pretty much avoided the Elon subject. Have we? Maybe not. Last week, of course, Elon declared war against Apple. Literally said, I'm declaring war against Apple. Then Tim Cook said, come on down. Come to the campus. Let's talk. Elon posts, Twitter photos of the beautiful lake at the campus and said, Tim said, we never considered banning the Twitter app. We love you. Now Elon says, Apple has fully resumed advertising on the platform. I don't believe anything Elon says, but clearly,
when he put that picture up, I was like, oh, he took him to the thinking pool.
He did. He said, "Let's walk." Tim said, let's "Hey, Elon, let's go for a walk." Yeah.
The pool is like this little space right in the very middle of the thing, and it's just all surrounded, and it's just like you don't even know you're there. So it's.
That's such a powerful place. Like even Elon Musk, I think he's still like the richest man in the world. He could not help but like tweet from his Twitter account, like every journalist the first time they get, hey, look, here I am at the Apple campus. I have a private conversation with Tim Cook.
So
I mean, thing.
it's unclear what's going on with Apple's ad spendings. I'm not spending any time on Twitter to look for Apple ads, so I'll just have to, we'll just have to defer to whatever.
I think we talked last week about a report about how one of Apple's like corporate ad advisors that advises a lot of different companies were advising their clients to pull out, to put the brakes on. Actually, there was another set of like ex-Apple employees that were saying that they think that the reason why that the Apple might have pulled ads temporarily was because of the
nightclub shooting.
The nightclub shooting. They didn't want to take the risk that an Apple ad would appear next to like a tweet that's related to that. So I mean, if you ever hear me come within a mile of complaining about Tim Cook being a diplomat, of like I've slapped me down hard. I don't think I ever have, but if I ever do, because you see the opposite of that, where no, I'm just gonna blabber my mouth anytime and anywhere on any subject without making any claim that I simply seem to know what I'm talking about. And the fact that I was amazed that he even got invited to the campus, because it seemed as though the answer would have been, we're just gonna someone's gonna give Elon a cookie. And we'll set him to the nap blanket.
Tim had the cookie.
He had the cookie. Yeah, isn't that hysterical?
Yeah, well, calm down. Here's a juice box. Here's a cookie. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Look out over at Apple
Elon,
Park.
According to some, Elon jumped the gun that it was the nightclub shooting. Apple, all advertisers do this. I remember in radio, if a plane crashed, thank God planes don't crash much anymore. But if a plane crashed, you'd pull all the airline advertising. Of course, that's, and then it comes back. And Elon is so kind of out of touch with how this stuff works. And I don't blame him. It's not his job. But he doesn't have anybody else to do it, so he's got to do it. Elon said, "Oh my God, they're pulling it," and I'm sure that's exactly what Tim said. No, this is normal. There are ups and downs. We're back, and so Elon's now saying they're back, but I don't.
Well, and the other thing is, I think Tim Cook, probably more than almost any other CEO out there, is really good at understanding. Like, he just looks at it coldly, like, I got to keep the company going and I got to keep things moving forward. And he definitely has some lines in the sand that he won't cross. But outside of that, he's like, well, we're just going to, like, what can I give you that doesn't damage what I'm doing? And
isn't that what you want in a CEO? I mean, isn't that the perfect CEO?
Yeah. And he's not emotional about it. He's not, he has the things that he won't do. And then outside of that, he's just kind of like, you can't get into the iPhone.
Everybody has to have integrity. And so that would be no good if he were squishy. But he's really good. He's what a CEO should be, somebody who manages internally and externally. And I think to some degree, a CEO is mostly about external, right, Jason?
And he has the unique position and the reputation, and that he's one of the few people who can kind of deprogram Elon Musk a little bit, right? Like most of us will be like, Elon, you don't understand how it works. He's like, you're just blue check elites. You don't know. And Tim Cook could be like, okay, I know what DHH is telling you about App Store rejections and all that. Let me explain to you what our policy actually is about it and why Parler wasn't on and then they came on, and like, here's what we're looking for. And it's not we're trying to moderate your site for you, but there is a basic level, a standard of moderation that we want every social media site to offer. And if you stay on that side of it, we're not going to have a problem. And he probably said, let me tell you about our in-app purchase thing. And we're going to take a percentage, but it's real convenient, but you can also offer it on your website if you want to, and it's fine. Like, and just kind of talk him out of the frenzy, because most of what Elon is listening to these days is people who've got conspiracy theories about how everything is they're out to get you, man. And then Tim Cook's like, listen, chill out, man.
He's surrounded himself.
Here's what's going on.
He's surrounded himself with those people, so to his detriment. And it also
so who's going to tell him no? And it's Tim, Tim Cook might be one of the few people who can say that's not reality. Don't listen to them.
And Elon, I think we're starting to understand as a kind of this deeply narcissistic. He's got this narcissistic injury.
No,
when somebody like Tim Cook reaches out to him, Elon is so flattered. And it's that to be treated as an equal. Elon was a lot like Trump, where he felt like he'd been, the people he really cared about were leaving him out. The kid in high school who wants to be in the cool kids, and the cool kids are mean, or he sees them as mean, and he's not in the group. When the cool kid reaches out and says, "No, come on, man, we love you. You're cool." that's just like gold. And I think Elon probably went to bed that night feeling pretty darn good.
Nope,
Yeah, plus he had that juice box.
And
the cookie.
in the specially built hotel rooms in the Twitter conference rooms. Did you see
the
that?
pods.
Twitter employees came in to Twitter, and without word or warning or a memo or anything, the conference rooms have been turned into kind of Motel 6-y hotel rooms. You're expected to sleep here now. Did we mention that? Think of it as Twitter City.
Think of it as working from home.
Yeah.
Oh, your
This
home.
is now your home.
This is your home. Apple introduces, I am so excited, karaoke, Apple Music Sing. You know what, Andy? You and I can do those songs from company together. That'll be
I'm
you
so
go.
surprised it took this long. Like
Bonus-
it just
Bonus content for members.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. They've added a variety of ways of doing the karaoke. Of course, the lyrics show up on the screen, but you can do adjustable vocals. Now, this is good for people who can't sing, not like you and me, Andy. We would like to get rid of all the other people's vocals and
No.
sing.
You know what? I think this is a wonderful thing because not everybody is blessed by God with a rich, lush baritone such as
Precisely.
myself, or a lilting tenor such as you. And finally, these great unwashed can feel as though they're not slobs for once.
Users now have control over a song's vocal levels. They can sing with the original artist vocals. I love this. They could take the lead or mix it up on millions of songs in the Apple Music catalog. I wonder if this is that thing you were talking about, Alex, a few weeks ago.
Stems.
It's similar. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know whether they've licensed it to do it specifically with certain tracks, or
I
whether
bet
they. I think
have.
they have. I think they're not doing anything like with post processing, which they could do, but I don't think that's what they're to I think what they did is they went to EMI and to Sony and to
they got them
everyone
to
else
give them
and
the
said,
mixes.
No, maybe not. They probably had a way to process the vocals out of them, but just said, "Can we do it?" And here's some
Yeah,
money.
you have to.
Like,
appraise
we're
it,
going to do
I
this
guess.
thing, and
Yeah.
that keeps everybody out of
This is
trouble.
pure speculation, but my guess is that this is related tangentially, perhaps, but related to the whole workflow that they put together for Dolby Atmos and for
Yeah.
multi-channel and
Yeah.
spatial audio, because this is essentially multi-channel because you're changing the volume mix to drop the vocals or raise the vocals, right? It's multiple channels. They've got the voice channel and the music channel, and then there's a little adjustment where you can take the voice and make it louder or quieter or drop it out altogether. And although that's not quite the same as a spatial audio mix, it feels like of a kind. Like they put in this technology to allow on-device interpretation of a multi-channel audio track, and then it's got a few different ways that it pops out. It pops out as spatial audio. It pops out as this adjustable voice track for Apple Music Sing.
And I think some stuff has been actually programmed. I mean, so a lot of the Atmos stuff, when it says Atmos on it, it has been remixed from the original. So that's when they say Atmos on it, that means it's been done from the original. But everything sounds a little bit better, and even the stereo stuff sounds a little bit better, and the stereo stuff sounds a little bit spatialized. And the reason is they are processing all of those, not in real time, but they're processing them and then re-uploading them into the library, so they're slightly different for Apple than they are for everybody else. And then, but I think that exactly what Jason said is that processing capability has allowed them to say, well, we can just reprocess all of these files, and we happen to know like some don't work as well. Like if the way their processing works, if their voice is over to one side or the other, or there's a lot of other things that they may not process as well. So they may not be trying to do all the tracks willy-nilly. They may be trying to figure out which ones work, but it's pretty exciting. I think a lot of people will have a great time with it. I think a lot of people love singing along to the songs.
It does say on millions of songs, so it's not all of the songs. And
Coupled with an ever-expanding catalog that features tens of millions of the world's most singable songs.
Exactly. And obviously some songs
Even that's
sing
a lot.
along to.
Yeah.
Tens of millions a lot. But I wonder, Alex, when you Atmosize, when you spatialize a song, are those tracks somehow visible to Apple? In other words, can Apple? No. So they don't have.
I mean, not really. So so the way Atmos works, they are. I mean, the metadata is there about where everything's going. You could theoretically grab. I mean, it is saying that this track is going through there. So it's not you. There is metadata that says where all the instruments are. So you could theoretically take it, an Atmos mix. I've never tried to do that, but you could theoretically use it to grab onto some of the instruments, because those things are objects and they have metadata and they have positioning and so on and so forth within the file. So, but I think that a lot of that by the time it gets to the Apple Music, and I could be wrong about this because I don't know how Apple does it. But that may be folded down into something that's not necessarily providing all of that explicit information. So. It's but I'm not 100% certain. The whole goal of Atmos is that you have all these objects and it just tells you where those instruments are, and that way it has infinite resolution. If it needs to get folded down to stereo or 5.1 or 5.14, 7.14, the Atmos stays separate from that, where it doesn't. The objects are sitting in their own space. So theoretically, it would all be there. I don't know whether the voice would necessarily what they're doing here.
You can't promise that they're going to mix the voice as a separate channel in Dolby Atmos. It's not.
A good example
but to be clear, this is only some tracks, right? So it may very well be that these are the tracks that have either a karaoke track or they just have an isolated voice set of metadata.
If anybody in the music industry knows or Apple knows and wants to DM any of us, please do. We'd love to know how this is working. It's going to be cool. I hope it is as cool. It's not out yet, so we can't tell. I do, Andy, I'll tell you this, though. The 1970 Broadway soundtrack of Company with Elaine Stritch is Dolby spatialized, right? It is spatial. So cross your fingers, Andy, you and me, next week, maybe.
You can hear the wine bottle skitter from her hand down to the studio floor all the way to...
That's on. I found that documentary, by the way. It's a D.A. Pennebaker documentary. That I did not know. And it is on the Criterion channel. So
it is. You got to see it. Also, Documentary Now did a parody of it like 2 years ago. That is amazingly good.
Okay.
So either one of them is a very strong recommendation.
You also get real-time lyrics. Users can sing along to their favorite songs with animated lyrics that dance, I say, to the rhythm of the vocals. Now, I am not a big karaoke guy. So I don't know what is kind of the state of the art in karaoke bars, but did the lyrics dance?
No, usually the bouncing ball dances.
They have a sparkle that goes from left to right as they highlight
the just the basic lyric solution inside of the iPhone though is just amazing. Like it is.
I love that.
If you get to and it really is well timed and set up there and so I think it's I think people will have. I think this will be something that a lot of people will enjoy a lot.
Especially because it's also included. Mac people are out, but Apple TV is in.
So and that's how you would do it. That would have been a
shame if they didn't.
That's how you would do it, right?
But it's hard to handhold the phone and look cool while you're doing David Bowie. It's like David Bowie would not sing.
I'm just saying. Blue jeans, I hope they get this out in time for Christmas, because I will do this. Yeah.
The biggest danger is people are going to put their phone on their holder in their car and do karaoke while they're driving.
Or in the shower. We'll see. Or in the shower. We'll see how waterproof those iPhone 14s are. How water resistant they are.
Background vocals. Vocal lines sung simultaneously can animate independently from the main vocals. So you can have your background singers, and you could say, you take the the blue sparkle, you take the red sparkle.
How that works.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Yeah. This is not out till Apple says later this month.
And all those people who've been waiting a year for the Apple Music Classical service to launch are like, what are you doing?
It's two different teams. It's two different teams. Like
I know. It's just funny because it's another Apple Music announcement before the end of the year. And they originally, when they bought Prime Phonics, said that would be coming. The classical service would be coming by the end of the year. It still might. I mean, this is one of those things when we say Apple is wrapped up for the year.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Exactly. They might be. They're ready to go on vacation, and they're like, "No, you got to launch your service before that."
Well, by the way, as long as we're saying that, didn't they say the Mac Pro would be out by this year?
Yeah, but they already backed out of that, right? I think that I think with all the production issues that they've had, everything got pushed back a little bit. They have
an excuse. The dog.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good excuse.
Yeah, the COVID.
The dog was in Shanghai and it ate their homework and shut down the whole factory.
It was a Shih Tzu.
Hey, if the Playdate got delayed for one chip, imagine what happens to the Mac Pro.
Exactly. Duet view. Multiple vocalists show on opposite sides of the screen to make duets or multiple singer tracks easy to sing along to. I don't know exactly know what that means.
So imagine if you want to sing one part of a duet, you can lower the audio track for that singer, and the lyrics will be like instead of one lyric sheet, they push like singer A to the left and singer B to the right.
Send me flowers.
Yeah,
anymore.
Exactly. So you can pretend to be one.
Can I do both?
And now you're duetting with your favorite singer.
Used to say you need me. Now when you need me late at night, does it feel so good when we're feeling all right?
Needless to say,
sorry,
Andy's going to use this a lot. That's all we're saying. Like, they're like, why did Andy just go to iPhone 100%?
He was channeling Neil Diamond briefly there, which I really enjoyed.
Love on the rocks.
Did you see
ain't no surprise.
There's another great duet with Barbra Streisand. Did you see that Neil himself? Neil Diamond. Actually, that's confusing if I see Neil himself. Neil Diamond was in the balcony at the Neil Diamond Broadway show and stand up and led the whole cast and audience in a sing-along of Sweet Caroline.
Yep.
And he hasn't performed for 5 years because he's got Parkinson's and he retired from performing, but he sang at his own show. Isn't that nice? If you get your own Broadway show, if you can sing a song, go and do it.
Should I play a little bit of it? The show. This is good. This is Takedown City, but I'm going to do it. Just take it out of the YouTube, okay, John Ashley? Just take it out of the YouTube. It's so good. All right. John Ashley's cutting me off now because he says you will be taken down and spanked by YouTube.
I don't know about spanked, but
well, they'll definitely take it down. We know that.
They'll take that down too for adult content. But show you what a mensch he is. So after I think this happened like right after the marathon bombing in Boston, 2013, I think it was 2014, and so. He wanted to the first Sox game, like after that, obviously it was a bad time and there's a lot of healing that needs to go on. He just decided to fly from California to Boston. No advanced, no planning, no nothing. Just show up, make some phone calls, say, "Hi, I'm Neil Diamond. I would love to sing Sweet Caroline during the during the seventh stretch to like lead the cure." And he was just, and nobody knew about it until he showed up. And again, not even the park knew about it until they just got a phone call from a hotel.
Isn't it cool though that you could be Neil Diamond, and it doesn't matter wherever you are. If you stand up and start singing that song, the whole audience is going to go crazy. It's pretty cool.
It's great when a songwriter or a performer like they get the hit, and then they'll probably almost automatically have 10 years of resentment, and then they realize that it's really cool that I walked into a restaurant with my kids, my grandkids, and the band just started gently playing the song that I'm very famous for, and now wow, people like that song. This is going to be my legacy beyond my kids and my grandkids.
It's not too bad being Lieutenant Savick, right? It's there's a certain something going there. Kirstie Alley, of course, sad story. We'll miss you. Jason Snell, you remember probably when Steve Perry of Journey showed up at the Giants games and would lead the sing along, and of course he's lost his voice. Don't stop believing.
Yeah, I mean that's why he doesn't do it, but Steve Perry is a fanatical Giants fan, is my understanding. So he would show up in his Giants gear and they play Don't Stop Believing and during those World Series runs and all of that. That was quite a Journey, one of those very rare bands, although not as rare as you'd think, that replaced its lead singer with somebody who used to be the lead singer in a tribute band for that band. Yeah. It happens more often than you'd think. But it's true.
We do have
the Red Pirate Roberts.
That's right. He never dies. We do have a tribute band called what is the name of it? For Neil Diamond's music, in town. So maybe you never know.
Oh wow!
We have one for the Eagles in town. They're down
good.
in
I've seen
San
them.
Rafael.
The Eagles.
They're really good.
They're fantastic.
We were doing testing. We were doing concert testing. We brought them in for our test stage, and oh my gosh, they are so good.
I know the bass player pretty well, and they're a great band. They're really fun to watch.
And Joey,
yeah, you know Joey, yeah. Apple Music will also be launching a suite of more than 50 dedicated companion playlists, so your karaoke party is pre-planned and ready to go, featuring all the epic songs, duets, choruses, and anthems that have been compelling people all around the world to sing badly. Fully optimized for the Apple Music Sing experience. So I hope that comes out before the end of the year, because that's a perfect for your holiday.
Yeah, they say it's this month, so let's hope they can beat the holiday parties out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be really sad if they put it out like December 28th.
New Year's party. Get it in there.
Well, so long as they've got it in time for Orthodox Christmas, that's fine.
Andy always gets this little, what is it? It's like the time added in soccer. He gets this little extra few days. Extra time. When is Orthodox Christmas this year? Do you know?
I actually have to look it up. It's usually like 10 days afterwards.
I hate it when Christmas goes to penalty kicks, though. It's really the worst.
Oh, that's
you
worst.
You want to solve it before that.
Oh, I hate it. December. Oh,
January 6th.
January 6th.
Sorry, this year's January 7th, 2023.
Saturday, January 7th. Actually, I believe in Ukraine, that's what they celebrate more than Christmas Day.
Yeah, that's what Russian Orthodox. The Russian side of the Slovak side of my family used to do. We used to do like the big Italian Christmas and the big Italian Christmas, and then a couple of weeks later, it would be just a nice dinner with the family. Pierogies, sausage.
You get 2 Christmases this year. That's really good.
And an excuse, like if there's someone I didn't get a gift for and they really, really overdid it, where they like, oh, well, of course, I give up my gifts on Orthodox Christmas, so
they forgot.
I can't give it to you until after the
when you open
unorthodox Christmas.
That's when you open the aunt and uncle gift. Yeah.
Saturday, by the way, is Canadian Christmas, so happy Canadian Christmas to our Canadian friends.
Come with the early harvest.
Let's take a little break.
We know it's early, but they're sorry about it.
You're good. You're really good. They're sorry. I'm sorry it's early. But we will have turkey and stockings. Just our show today. You made me laugh, Jason. Our show today brought to you by Rocket Money. I love this. I've been a Truebill subscriber for years. Rocket acquired them. They've turned it into Rocket Money. They've made it even better. It's a great app you could put on your phone that will tell you what your net worth is, what your budgets are, where your money's going. But here's the feature that makes this beyond awesome. It finds your recurring subscriptions and lets you cancel them. No, I think almost everybody, we lie to ourselves about it, but 80% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about. They just forgot. They're just paying them every month. Money going out. It's $5, $3, $7, whatever. A little bit. Blue check. $8. No big deal. You forget about it, right? Here's the thing. When they surveyed them, most Americans thought, probably spend about $80 a month on subscriptions. But then when they looked, it's the total is closer to $200 or more. For me, a lot more. That's why I love Rocket Money. You can go to a tab that shows all your subscriptions in one place. You see a subscription and you say, well, wait a minute, I'm still paying for that. All you have to do without leaving the app is press cancel, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. That's one of the reasons we have all those subscriptions, right? Oh, how do I figure out, where do I go? What do I do to cancel it? But we all have, for me, it was a campaign contribution. I've mentioned this before that I forgot to turn off in 2020 and had been paying for years. For you, it might be, I don't know, a magazine you never read that you still subscribe to, or an app you bought and you forgot. I think that's a big one, apps you forgot about. Now, this is such a good solution. Everybody's got to get it right now on your phone. Go to rocketmoney.com/MacBreak. I know you're smart. You could go to the Google Play Store or the iOS App Store and just download it. But please do me a favor. Go to just so they know you saw it here. rocketmoney.com/MacBreak. You get rid of useless subscriptions with Rocket Money. If you haven't done this yet, trust me, this is the best way to save. It could be hundreds of dollars a year. rocketmoney.com/MacBreak. Cancel those unnecessary subscriptions right now. And there are a lot of other great things it does, but the subscriptions alone make it worthwhile. rocketmoney.com/MacBreak. We thank Rocket Money so much for taking what was already a fantastic product, making it better, just so happy. And then buying an ad on this show. And when Lisa said, do you know anything about Rocket Money? I said, do I? I know all about it. She said, they want to advertise. I said, please let me tell people about it. It's the best.
Yeah, I got a very nice confirmation that my annual subscription to the New Yorker online had been renewed for $110 the other day. I'm like, oh, I haven't actually read that in a long time, and I forgot that I subscribed to it. And I'm in a period this week where I'm going to be traveling, and I'm not buying burritos for myself. I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad the New Yorker has $110 my money.
Sigh.
And then you go and like figure it out and unsubscribe. But yeah, that's painful.
When it was a pile of magazines, one every week, it was easy to remember you subscribed to it. But now there's no visible thing. By the way, did you just win an Eddie Award and not tell us? Huh?
Actually, I did. I don't like to flaunt it, but you know, if we're showing off our Eddie hardware here, yeah. I won.
What'd you get that
for? I won this for being an awesome columnist who was holding up the traditions and the courtesies of such an august publication. They were just so damn proud of me that they just said, you know what, we're leaving that car unlocked intentionally with the hopes that Andy, on the way out of the award ceremony, will see that unlocked car.
Just take it.
Know that the show is over. Yeah, actually, I got this on eBay.
No.
Yeah, it's somebody else's who won it. By the way, I'd like to also thank the Academy for my Eddie Award.
Exactly.
Alex, where's your Eddie?
Editing the
really left out.
I've got the 89. Which one do you have, Jason?
This is the unlabeled undated, although I also have a
there you go.
97. So I have two.
Well, that's hysterical,
those
Andy.
are-
You bought it on eBay. Did you peel the plaque off, or no? The plaque's still on it.
The plaque is still on it. I'm not going to reveal the name of the winner. See that it is unfortunately it is a trapezoid, so I keep wanting to like have a plaque made that looks.
You know, it's hysterical.
Just convincing enough to make people think that no, I didn't buy this on eBay.
I would just put some blue tape, painter's tape on it, and you know, just use a marker to put your name on it. Why not? Who cares? The funny thing is, the sad thing is, somebody hit such hard times that they sold their Eddie. I've heard of Oscar winners doing that, but.
Or maybe they it was an estate sale or something like that. What are we going to do with this thing?
Or in this case, you would I won't say who it is, but you would recognize the name of the company because they had a very significant and very, very flashy product in 1989. It's possible that when the company was acquired and they closed up the office,
all
they
this
basically
crap.
Yeah, exactly. And this just and basically someone just took it home because hey, look, it's a nice. And I will say with no joking. This was the one like souvenir I wanted from my Mac user / Macworld days, because this is a real like Oscar level.
Yeah, it weighs a ton.
If this were an episode of Columbo, I could murder someone with this. This is and it's a beautiful piece of sculpture.
You guys did a good job.
It's classy.
And when we came over from Mac User to Macworld, it was one of the things that they kept from Mac User was they kept the statue and the name and the whole awards kind of
As
thing.
they should.
Because it was, it's good stuff. And like I said, and it's like a Mac Classic or a Mac SE in there, but it's
mine is an SE, right? The 89 is an SE. I think you went back to the generic Classic.
Oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
I need to get a rotating platform, a little light.
So back in the day when Vic Gundotro was at Google, he was the champion of Google Plus. Google Plus, their social network, which they're wishing they still had, by the way, right about now. Was championed by Gundotro, became a big push for Google. They even tied employees' bonuses to their success in social. Gundotro left, and Google Plus died.
Suddenly. Like, he left very quickly. Like, he announced it on Tuesday, I'm not going to be here on Friday.
Yeah.
Like, it was not...
But he went to a company called AliveCor, which makes a very important and wonderful product that detects AFib and other heart issues with a $99 thing. And I have the one where you just put your thumbs on it and it ties to the iPhone. However, and now it's like a credit card you can keep in your wallet, which is cool. Apple and AliveCor are kind of in a little tussle over the whole thing. I think AliveCor sued first, saying that it had created this technology and Apple put it in the watch. Then Apple countersued over the Cardia Band, which is a watch strap that you could put in the Apple Watch that will kind of do more. So there's an ITC complaint, an antitrust battle, and then a patent lawsuit over the Apple Watch. And Apple's response is, well, no, we invented it. And so, this is an action about innovation and the opportunism and profiteering that threatens it, says Apple. Apple introduced cutting-edge, life-changing advancements in electronic healthcare that are relied upon by millions on a daily basis to better their life. Vic Condotra needs a pond so he can invite Tim over and just give him a cookie and a juice box. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea who's...
Here, we got a bumper pool table last year. Here, let's take a stroller on the bumper pool table.
You want to see my old Eddys? No, yeah. Apple says AliveCor used technology Apple created before declaring that that AliveCor has not been commercially successful and has been propped up by funding from private investors. I don't know what that has to do with anything. It's just kind of twisting the knife. AliveCor's complaint says Apple is an opportunistic assertion of its patents against Apple because it's not doing well. So, an attempt to siphon from the success of Apple technologies it did not invent, all the while selling products that rely on foundational ECG innovations that Apple patented years before AliveCor came to be.
Oh, who are we going to siphon? The company? Come on, that makes no sense.
The thing is, this is life-changing technology. It's great that it's in the Apple Watch. It's also great that you could get it in a credit card size thing. If you don't have an Apple Watch for $99, I wish these guys would just figure it out.
I didn't see it in this story, but did somebody go to AliveCor from Apple? Did somebody leave Apple and found AliveCor? Because that's what it sort of sounds like to me, is that somebody who knew about Apple stuff just kind of left.
I think that what I think might have happened is that Apple thought that AliveCor was doing something different than they were, and then AliveCor said, "No, you're doing the same thing." Then Apple's lawyers looked back and did research to defend themselves, and was like, "What the what?" And then they're upset. Like, usually the way, I mean, I come from a family of lawyers, and usually you look at something and go, "Oh, okay," you don't think about it, and then they attack you, and as you defend it, you suddenly realize they missed something really big, and then your lawyers just go, "We will kill them now." and it just goes into death ray really fast because they picked the fight first. Like, if they hadn't picked the fight, Apple probably wouldn't have paid it. If AliveCor gets buried by this patent, it's because they picked a fight with Apple over something that they didn't need to, that Apple wasn't adjudicating. And suddenly they flipped the switch, and the Apple eye looked at them and looked down at their own patents, and then looked over at them and then hit.
It's so hard to know. Back in June, a judge ruled that the Apple Watch did infringe AliveCor's patent.
Right.
Then today, this has just happened. The U.S. patent. Then of course, Apple went to the USPTO. Today, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office's Patent Trial and Appeal Board (PTAB) ruled that 3 AliveCor patents covering heart monitoring technologies for wearable devices were unpatentable. Not that they were preceded by earlier inventions by Apple, but that they couldn't be patented. AliveCor alleged in federal court and before the ITC that Apple had copied the technologies. So this is one way to go with this. Is appeal to the PTO about the patent rather than going to court and sue. And so now that they've ruled that it's unpatentable, I think AliveCor is going to be in a difficult position.
And again, you have to remember the countersuit is also just hanging that over their head, going, we can stop this anytime you want. We just all you have to do is, but we can. So
here is perhaps the smoking gun. During development, AliveCor founder and chief medical officer Dave Albert demonstrated the technologies to Apple executives. This is back in 2017. A year later, Apple released very similar technologies. So maybe that's the smoking gun. But it looks like Apple's going to win this one because of the patent, the PTAB ruling that those patents are not patentable. Wow. I don't know who's more brazen. A lot of times, and you'll acknowledge this too, Alex, these are defensive countersuits, right?
Yeah, because you want to give them a reason that right now they have all upside, no downside. Apple just gave them downside.
Right.
Like this could get much worse really fast,
Right.
and so that it can be negotiation. It can also be, and I think that they definitely, I think their business has been definitely negatively affected by Apple's improvements of the watch. The watch isn't as good as what they're doing, but is it good enough to, eat into any of the sales that they thought that they were going to have is probably likely.
Yeah.
So, they may be in a position where they're starting to pick these fights because Apple may be correct. They have investors trying to say, well, what else can we make money at? Because we're not making money at this hardware, and I do think that the sales of Apple Watches has definitely affected AliveCor. Because
Sure.
a lot of what theirs is more accurate and it's more precise and it's more medically driven. But I think a lot of people that would have gotten AliveCor, so I think that I think they may be thrashing a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Apple says, well, now you're losing money because of us. You're coming after us. Yeah.
No, that's usually why.
It's everyone, I will say, again, as someone who grew up in, I spent the weekend talking about lawsuits with my dad. I was home. So we were talking about like, I can't say anything about it, but
all families express love in their own special ways. No one way, no less than others. That's
we
fine.
love sitting around talking about stupid things people do in court, and like it's just like stupid suits and stupid things, and like one that, and the thing is that I think people think that they can just sue people, but it's thermonuclear war, like
so
and as soon as
I've only been in one lawsuit, and I deeply regret it.
Yeah, and
not
so
because we lost or anything, but just because it's just the process is just awful.
Yeah, almost any good lawyer will tell you don't do it if you don't have to.
Yeah,
but once you're in it, so you just got to be very careful about what do I really want to peel that open, because you never know when you peel open a lawsuit, you never know exactly where it's going to go, no matter how certain you think it is.
Yeah, that's right. And what you don't know whether, even if your case is perfect, is the other side's going to make it unpleasant.
Yeah.
Even if you know you're going to win in the long run, the other side is going to make it as awful as possible for you with depositions and requests for documents and on and on and on. It's not it's such an awful thing. So let's speak about something jolly for the holiday. Apple TV Plus and Spirited, which I could only watch about for 10 minutes before my diabetic shocks kicked in. It's the most sugary thing ever, but it's fun. Who doesn't love Will Ferrell? And what's his name from Ryan Seacrest?
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, yeah. Selena Gomez, I haven't seen My Mind of Me. Apple TV's trailer talks about all of the new things. They're going to have a little bit of a problem with Emancipation, the Will Smith movie, although Will Smith is now going out on the apology tour trying to save that film. A new season of Little America comes out that same day, December 9th. A new holiday short film, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, will be for Christmas Day. All I know is if you see a change in the size or coloration of that mole, you should see a doctor. Of course, Ted Lasso.
Charlie Brown Christmas is free.
Yeah,
Charlie Brown Christmas is free on Apple TV.
Yes, I watched it. Lisa and I watched about 5 minutes of it just for good old time's sake, and it's just as cute as ever.
It's Curb Your Enthusiasm for children.
Yeah, it is. Well, because it's the strip. So it's a set piece. They do the thing. They do the joke, and then it's another set piece. They do the thing. It's like it's very weird, but hey, we love it. The sci-fi series Wool. I don't know what that's going to be about, Billy.
That's Hugh Howey's. It was like a self-published, and then it got turned into an actual published thing. It's like a post-apocalyptic thing where people live in silos in the ground.
And the smell of lanolin pervades the air. I am very excited about Masters of the Air, which they've teased quite a bit. Sequel to the Band of Brothers in the Pacific. It's about, of course, the Air Force in World War II. Billy Crudup's comedy Hello Tomorrow. And a new Ridley Scott movie, Napoleon. Oh, Napoleon. Wow.
Typical tiny personal movie from Ridley Scott.
Yes,
he likes those little low budget, minimal crew.
Yeah, Napoleon.
Steal shots in the city.
Just a little thing in a little battle. No big deal. A new Jason Segel and Harrison Ford comedy called Shrinking. Why are there so many? I presume this is about a psychiatrist. Why are there so many TV shows and movies about psychotherapy? I don't understand it. Is it inherently
I think
funny?
you know my theory is that it's psychotherapy is about two people talking to each other, so it's nothing but dialogue, and a lot of it can be let's build one set in which they sit and talk.
Yeah.
You don't have to. It's not about an international daring do hitman who occasionally goes into space. It's like, okay, we'll just do a somewhat rundown, frumpy looking office park office. We're good.
So the pitch,
$80,
the elevator pitch for Shrinking. It's Brett Goldstein, Roy Kent from Ted Lasso. He's the writer and executive producer of that show. And the idea there is that it's a therapist who decides to basically be unflinchingly honest with everybody, and the terrible results of that, I believe, is how it goes. So it actually sounds like kind of a funny premise, and it's part of the, what's Brett Goldstein's next thing after being discovered in Ted Lasso, and the answer is another Apple TV.
Oh, he's
show.
the Ted
He's one of the
Lasso
writers
guy.
on the show too.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah, Roy
He probably
Kent
has a
from
deal.
Ted Lasso.
Oh, it's Roy Kent. Oh, nice. I love Roy Kent. Is he British?
He is.
So he's going to have the same accent, or is he going to be an American?
I don't think he's in it. I think he's just the showrunner. I think he's just the showrunner for it, because he is a comedy writer. They hired him to be one on the writing staff and bring his sort of like Britishness to it, understanding how soccer works and things like that. And then they cast him on top of that. But originally he was hired just to be a writer on the show. And so they obviously his agents have now gotten him a deal for his own show. So it's pretty good.
And of course, there's that Netflix movie Jonah Hill did with his own personal psychiatrist, his actual psychiatrist. Which is actually not too bad. I kind of liked it. It was called Stutz. It's on Netflix. It's a little weird. At first, I thought, is this a send up? Is he? Yeah. But no, it's his actual.
I always get a little bit worried because it's not the first time you have like a very, very wealthy, very, very famous celebrity wants to do a documentary about his mentor or psychiatrist. It's like, oh, where did this idea come from?
Yeah.
And
he's been talking to Elon.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it looks like, I have to say, when you look at the teaser, which I can't play because Apple will take us down even if I'm giving them a plug, it looks like Apple's TV Plus has, my early complaints were, scant content, a lot of not very good content. They're firing on all cylinders. Would you agree, Alex? They hired two executives from Sony. They seem to really be putting together a great slate.
They seem to be putting together. I don't find myself watching very much of it.
Oh,
I mean, I really,
Oh.
I don't, I have it there, but I don't find myself going to it very often. I really like to watch The Sound with Mark Ronson.
Right.
Which, and I really love I feel like some of those are more interesting to me. I think that.
You like documentaries.
Well, I like documentaries. I think that, I don't know. I always feel like the Apple stuff has too much vegetables.
Watch.
Like it's always.
Yeah, no, I agree. In the early days,
I'm just like
more.
It's always telling me something about how
I totally agree with you.
Even the post-apocalyptic stuff, I'm sure will teach me something that I needed to know about the way we should have done things. And I just I'm kind of like, I can't just watch a show. Like,
watch.
I
got a show for you. Gary Oldman is amazing.
Yeah,
in
Slow Horses.
I've heard about that, and I think the
second season just came out. Watch the first season. The first episode of the second season, Gary Oldman is in a Chinese noodle house, or maybe it's
my God, it's so disgusting. It's amazing.
And the guy, his coworker comes in and says, "You're eating like a dead horse," and you could tell Gary Oldman is getting so much pleasure out of slurping the noodles, and it's just the best scene. It is an amazing show.
I think that the other things, for all the things that people said before Apple TV came out, was that it would be, it's going to be very PG and it's going to be, all these other things. And the problem is that I watch almost any TV that I watch. I only watch TV about 1 hour a day. It's not like
You're
I watch
very
it with my
picky.
kids.
Yeah.
Well, I also watch it. My family sits down. It's like the end of the day thing. We have dinner and then we sit down and watch something. So if anything, my kids are at the age that anything that says MA means I'm not going to see it.
Oh.
Like, I'm just not going to see it because I don't have any other time in the day to watch it. And so,
so you may not see Slow
Apple
Horses. It's not for kids. Spirited is for kids, for sure. You might not.
Yeah, I don't know if I can watch any more Scrooge. Like it does have really good ratings. I mean, Apple's pretty excited about that one.
It's pretty sugary.
The audience response on that I heard was pretty good. So
and did you like the workplace comedy? What was the name of it? Where they're in the basement.
Severance.
That was a great show.
That might actually be my favorite TV show of the whole year, and there are a bunch that were very good this year. But when I think back, I think maybe Severance is the is the answer there. It's
Pretty
so very
amazing.
good. Yeah.
Then there's the other psychiatrist show with Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd, The Shrink Next Door. Didn't watch that one. I don't know. Steve Carell's got a psychiatrist show. There seem to be quite a few of them.
Yeah,
because we're all
It's a
going
pandemic,
crazy.
right? Like
a
everybody
pandemic. Oh, maybe
needs
that's it.
therapy.
Build one set, hire 2 actors, you're good.
Well, I
Again.
realized after watching The Expanse for a while that sci-fi is actually cheap to make. Same thing, right, Alex? It's in a set.
Sci-fi is not cheap to make.
It's not? Well, if you have a lot of CGI. But The Expanse doesn't have a lot of space battles. It's mostly just people rattling around inside a can.
Yeah, I mean, some of those things. I don't think Apple really looks at things based on expense.
No, obviously not.
I think that they're not trying to
Obviously
save any
not.
money anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
I think that they are like. I mean, that's more of a. If you were talking about like YouTube originals or Facebook originals, they're like, how do we do this in a can?
Right.
But I think that Apple is kind of like, it's just a story, and they don't really.
Yeah.
I mean, they
whatever
care.
you want. Spend $100 million an episode. It's okay. We got more.
Yeah, it's so I think that Apple's not, because that's the shtick that they're going after. But again, I think that it has. I think right now my high watermark at the moment. I was trying to think when Jason
You like
said
the Little Bugs one.
Severance. The first season was great. The second season was okay.
Yeah.
Like it was. What happened was the first season they spent years working on it. The production company had worked on it before Apple even existed,
Right.
and so it looked amazing. Then you could tell in the second season that they had run out of things to talk about, and so so that was and so I watched a couple episodes and I was like, But I think the problem is that we are so overwhelmed with so much good content now that a lot of us are just super picky. Like it's, we have gotten caught up in Peripheral, which is a little bit close to MA. There's some, but Peripheral is really good.
My problem with Peripheral is I loved the book, which I read before the show because I wanted to read the book. Yeah, because I knew it was going to be a TV show. But they couldn't use the plot of the book because they wanted more seasons. So, I don't know if you've seen the last episode yet.
I haven't. Don't tell me. No spoilers. I don't know anything about it yet.
Let me just put it this way. It's turning into Westworld, and I have the same problem I have with it as Westworld. And I loved the book. The book is brilliant. And if they just made the book, the problem is they wouldn't have a season 2, and they really want a season 2.
Yeah, I think if they just made the book, they wouldn't have. The book starts so slow that I think they needed to cut to the chase with the TV show. But now they are kind of like retrofitting the rest of the
it's a
world
completely different
building
story. It's not
onto it. Yeah.
It's turned into Westworld, and I hated Westworld, so don't. But it's the same show.
Same producers.
Yeah, same producers. Apple is being sued by 2 women over AirTag stalking. I hope this gets thrown out of court. Because it's no different than buying a $25 GPS device and gluing it in the car or using
GPS would actually be better than the AirTag.
Be better.
The AirTag is,
and I think Apple's done a little biased, but I think Apple's done a very good job of making the AirTag as unusable for that as possible. The first woman who filed the lawsuit, stalked by her ex-boyfriend, put the AirTag in the wheel well of her car and found out where she had moved to avoid his harassment. I'm sorry, that's a horrible thing, but there are many ways he could have done that. According to the other woman in the case, her husband placed an AirTag in her child's backpack to track her. Okay. I mean, it's men behaving badly. There's a lot of it. Nice picture, by the way, from Phone Arena of some guy sneaking an AirTag into some woman's purse. They must have been in the offices there because they have a water cooler. Then also going on, a grandmother, Colorado grandma, is suing a police detective following a SWAT raid. Get this, based on false Find My iPhone information.
Yeah, this was this was pretty much incompetent. What happened was that a guy had his van stolen, and it had his iPhone in it and some guns. And so he basically gave the detective, hey, look, I've got Find My iPhone, and here's the map, and I circled the area, and it's definitely right here. And based simply on this screenshot of Find My iPhone, saying here's a pinpoint where if you misread the map, here's where it must be within 1 millimeter. They got a warrant to have, and because they thought there might be guns there, a SWAT team came in, basically pulled the grandma out.
It was a military operation.
It was a military operation.
And these things often end in mayhem. Thank God it didn't this time. But come on, stop using Find My iPhone to track down your lost stuff.
Yeah. Apple themselves says this is not for like police use. This is not sensitive like that. It can be off by houses, if not many yards, and this just not. And that's assuming that it gets the basic location correct. There are the old stories about how certain tracking systems, when they can't find a place, they default to this one house where everybody thinks that their stolen phone wound up. So yeah, this is why this one detective is being targeted, because like he should have known that this is not something you should be able to get a warrant on, and it's right there in black and white that Apple tells everybody about this. So yeah, that's pretty sickening.
Denver Police Chief Ron Thomas has ordered an internal investigation. This stuff it's dangerous to do this stuff, and to do it based on that evidence is a terrible idea. Hey, if you like carrot weather, and I know you do, the snarkiest weather app in the world, it's getting better. Mini games, live activity support for all precipitation, layout redesign, and more. Hello, Carrot. Big update. 20 lock screen widgets. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to get this. It's not free, but boy, it would be fun to have snark on my lock screen. 10 new custom layout sections, all sorts of stuff. iPad, Apple WeatherKit support. That's the real benefit is Apple bought Dark Sky, and now WeatherKit really is as good as Dark Sky, right?
Yeah, basically it is Dark Sky.
Yeah. So you can really get a great weather app, and then you can, on top of it.
Yeah, I have to say, as someone who used Dark Sky for a long time, the weather one is the way you get to information in the weather one is a little frustrating. Like it's a lot of times it's obscured in the way that you just knew where to go, and it gets into modes and stuff like that. I feel like Apple. I don't know.
Does Apple...
the weather app, but the Dark Sky, the Weather Kit is what was the Dark Sky API, right. And it feeds Apple's weather app, but you can also use it in Carrot, along with a bunch of other different. That's one of the things about Carrot that I really like is you can actually look up, find the weather source that's most accurate for where you live and use that inside Carrot, which is how I use it. It's great.
Let's see. Apple is congratulations, Europe. Now you can have 100 pounds of Apple gear mailed to your home in the self-repair program. Apple announced it's extending it now outside the U.S. for the first time. I refer you to Micah Sargent's excellent piece on what happened when he ordered the Apple self-repair kit. It came, but the parts didn't, and then the kit had to go back before. Anyway. Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, Sweden, and the UK, you can now enjoy a similar experience. I think Apple probably...
Why should we be the only ones to suffer?
Yeah, why should we be the only ones to suffer? Also, congratulations, Scandinavia. 2 years after it was shipped in the U.S., Apple is now sending the HomePod Mini to Finland, Norway, South Africa, and Sweden. I don't know what's that. One of these things is not like the other. But yes, now you can get colorful sound like never before. Or as they say in Norwegian, "Fargrik litt som aldri før." I hope I did that right. Pretty good, huh? Yeah. John Ashley, you speak Norwegian?
No, but it sounded right to me.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just added the Swedish chef lilt to it, and I think that's probably all you need to do. It's like speaking Italian. You just add the vowel. We didn't do this story last week, but I guess we should probably mention it. Do not buy 300 iPhones at the Apple store and then walk out the door because, people notice.
That's flashy. That's what in my neighborhood that'd be called flashy.
Conspicuous consumption. Conspicuous.
Yeah. A man carrying 300 iPhones. How do you even carry 300 iPhones?
I think it was the wheelbarrow that gave him away.
He was punched in the face and robbed near Apple's Fifth Avenue store. 27-year-old victim targeted moments after he left the store at 1:45 a.m. See, here's the problem. This is an Apple store that's open. What? He said Apple store that's open 24 hours. The victim, according to police, regularly makes large purchases from Apple in the middle of the night as he resells the phones through his small business. The clerk put the 300 iPhone 13s in 3 large bags, 1:45 in the morning. It's 1:45. There's no
so
one
it was
in
a
the place.
heist.
It was a heist.
Because this guy does this regularly.
Oh, yeah, they saw him. As he was walking to a car, another car pulled up. 2 men jumped out, demanded the bags. The victim put up a fight, sparking a struggle in which he was punched in the nose. He said, "Make it look good. Punch me right in the nose. Make it look good." Thieves managed to snatch one of the bags before taking off in the car, worth $95,000.
So I wonder if he's like a gray marketeer or something, where he's buying them there in New York, and they hit for his business and his clients, and then is shipping them to various places in the world.
Probably you shouldn't buy 300 iPhones at 2 in the morning and then walk out the door on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. Just seems like
this is not the sort of heist for which you need a Cockney safecracker and a Chinese acrobat to pull off.
Snatch 2. It's going to be Snatch 2. It's going to be very exciting. Get in the car.
We'll punch you in the nose.
Make it look good.
We need to put together a crew of real villains for this job. Best wheelman in Brighton they've got.
The nose puncher. Need the nose puncher.
The nose puncher. He's good. All right, let's take a break, and your picks of the week will be next. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Lindsay, Andy Iannacco, Jason Snell, and CacheFly. That's who brings you the show. Not just this show, but every show, every week for the last 10, 12, 15 years. CacheFly is our content delivery network. So when you download a show from the website or you subscribe in your podcast player, that app is actually going to CacheFly and getting the podcast, the audio or the video. And the miracle of all this is that we never get complaints like, oh, the show stopped downloading halfway through, or I couldn't get the show, or it took 4 hours to... No, because CacheFly's awesome. Look, the whole world, I want to just put in a plug for them right now. The whole world is moving to digital. Traffic patterns across the internet are spiking. And I got to tell you, viewers are not going to hang around for videos that buffer. Shoppers will abandon carts on e-commerce sites that are slow. Gamers leave bad reviews if the latency is high. But none of that will happen if you use CacheFly. CacheFly, a leader in CDN technology since 2002, they hold the track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery. They've been doing it for 2 decades, 50-plus points of presence on 6 continents. They pioneered the use, for instance, of TCP Anycast, which now others are starting to build on, but that started at CacheFly. Quality of experience is the single most critical metric when serving content simultaneously to a large and distributed audience on a global scale. Your delivery stack can be your secret weapon. With CacheFly, you get ultra-low latency video streaming that delivers video to more than 1 million concurrent users. You get lightning-fast gaming, which delivers downloads faster, 0 lag, glitches, or outages. Got a website? You'll love mobile content optimization, which automatically does image optimization so your site loads best on any device. Multiple CDNs mean redundancy and failover, which intelligently balances your traffic across multiple providers, giving you the shortest routes and mitigating against performance glitches. Plus, with CacheFly, you'll never pay for service overlap again. You get flexible month-to-month billing for as long as you need it, discounts for fixed terms once you're happy. CacheFly worked with us to handle our usage spikes because it's very spiky, and they smoothed it all out. You design your own contract when you switch to CacheFly. We've been using CacheFly practically since the beginning, and I wouldn't have it any other way. With 3,500 clients, over 80 countries, organizations like TWiT use and choose CacheFly for their scalability, reliability, and unrivaled performance. And I'll tell you, it's absolutely true. CacheFly, the only CDN built for throughput, delivering rich media content up to 10 times faster than traditional delivery methods, 30% faster than other major CDNs. Learn how you can get your first month free at CacheFly. And by the way, concierge service 24/7. They've been the best. CacheFly.com. You've heard me say it for more than 10 years. Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. Thank you, CacheFly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think Jason Snell might have a pick of the week for us this week.
I do. I mean, I always do, right? Like, that's what we do here.
That's your job.
I was told that we had to do this.
It's a requirement.
So I've only been here a few months. I'm going to run out soon.
If we want to hold on to our liquor license, we got to,
I do have one. It is Broadcast's new version 3.0. This is Steve Troughton Smith. It is a Mac and iPad and iPhone and Apple TV and Apple Watch app. It does them all. It's free with a $5 in-app purchase. If you like listening to internet radio, it is a great internet radio streaming app. And also, I use it to listen to live podcasts. So the Relay FM podcast, the Accidental Tech podcast, I suspect it works with Twit too. If you have an audio stream, a live audio stream, you can put it in there. A bunch of new features, better interface this time, support for a URL scheme, so you can put a little badge on your website that says click here to listen live, and it'll automatically kick people into broadcast. And one of the things I talked about, the cross-platform nature of this, that's actually one of the things I like the most about it. For a while I was running at the same time as one of my favorite podcasts was streaming live, and I was able to listen to it live with just my cellular Apple Watch and a pair of AirPods, because broadcast runs on the Apple Watch, and you can listen to live streams on the Apple Watch. Or your phone. This is what I do when I'm listening to live streams, when I'm taking a walk or taking a shower or whatever. If they're live, I can listen live. And then, it's also got literally all the internet radio on it as well that you can tune in. So I'm a big fan. Steve Troughton-Smith is an incredibly diligent, careful, brilliant developer of handcrafted Apple platform apps, basically. And this app was already great. And then the new version, better look, better search, Shazam, integration with the URL schemes, like the whole shebang. It's all there. It's good stuff.
So could I say, I'm hearing this song, where can I hear it somewhere else, kind of thing?
I don't know. I think maybe, it's basically anything that's like RTSP, like basically audio streams.
Yeah.
You can pour it in there. It doesn't have to be. It's got a directory, but
radio stations, being the monopolists that they are, basically all have their own apps and pull their streams off the public internet. But there's radio stations all over the world. Yeah, and you'd be surprised at how many, even in America, they have their own app, but they also keep their stream up because they know that third-party stream apps exist, and they want to have them available too. So, I was able to listen to local stations here in the Bay Area that are parts of big chains, but I don't know. I searched for them in broadcasts, and there was a link. That's good to know.
And I tapped it, and it played, so I guess it works. Yeah. Good app.
It's a big issue for Lisa and me in the NFL, because TuneIn will block.
Well, that's different, right? Like I've had that happen where the Giants were on and I tried to stream KNBR and they're like, no, you need to go to the MLB app because they don't have the rights to restream
NFL does that now with NFL Plus. Yeah. It's very frustrating.
But sometimes so that stuff is less so. But if you want to tune in your local news station, you may be able to do that. And certainly there's so many. This is Steve Troughton-Smith is an Irish developer, so he's got a very international directory of radio stations that he's tied into here. And it's just, again, if you've heard of other apps that do this, there are lots of apps that do this. It's a dime a dozen.
I've been a TuneIn subscriber forever and ever.
But this is a really well written app, and if you're in the Apple ecosystem, you can get it on all of your devices, and it syncs using iCloud.
5,095 stations in the U.S. So, yes, you can probably get your local. That's cool. And if Apple won't do a classical music, I know I can get KLUX in 89.5 HD. Mr. Andy Anako, your pick of the week.
My pick of the week is one of my beloved holiday traditions for decades and decades. It is Patrick Stewart's one-man production performance reading of A Christmas Carol. Because and people thank me for it if they haven't heard about this. Yes. So Patrick Stewart, I think starting in the 80s, definitely when he was on The Next Generation, he basically would book a theater and just do a one-man presentation of A Christmas Carol, not standing there and reading the book, but basically performing all the characters. No sound effects, no lighting, no whatever. It's just that, yes, he'll do the Cockney accent, and then he'll do the little child singing gaily. And he's done this for years and years and years and years. And at some point, he did a recording of an hour and 47-minute long recording of this. And this has been one of my traditions for so long. The first time I bought a copy of this, it was on 2 cassettes, and I would listen to it in the car. And I bought it on CD, and now I have it on Audible. And it is just one of the most beautiful things, one of the most beautiful pieces of performance you will experience. And it is slightly abridged from the original Christmas Carol, but not that you would notice. And not only is it just beautifully performed,
just remember, Dickens got paid by the word. Let's just leave it at that.
Yes. He did. Yeah, exactly. He but everybody, as Jason will attest, there even the greatest genius could use the kind stilling hand of an editor to basically keep the drink from being stirred too rapidly, I think. But yeah, no, it's just that he gets to the heart of A Christmas Carol for me, which is that, like, to me, a version of A Christmas Carol does not work unless the production understands that Scrooge is not the villain; he's the hero. He is a redemption arc. It's not like he's being scared straight. He realizes that he's made a whole bunch of bad decisions because he's reacted badly to hardships in his life, and it has left him being a lonely man who doesn't like himself very much. And one night, these ghosts come and teach him to the error of his ways, how to like himself, and that it's possible to be a better person. And that completely comes through. It's probably my favorite, like, you know, the one of the big scenes at the very end where, you know, he wakes up in the morning and it's Christmas morning. It's one of the most beautiful, almost like eye-wateringly emotional scenes. And Patrick Stewart, he is one hell of an actor. And all you need is him and a microphone. And A Christmas Carol and an editor, and you get something like this. I swear that if you buy this, you will have it on your phone, and it will be there for next year, and then at some point you'll remember it, and it will become one of your traditions, just like it became one of mine when I bought mine at Building 19 on a discount of a bin full of audiobooks, just because, hey, it's that guy from Star Trek. I wonder what this is going to be like, and I wind up like crying as a grown adult, like, this is beautiful, he's just, but maybe he will love again, and he could be a good person again. Thank you, Captain Picard. You taught me to love again.
By the way, that is the actual plot of that new Will Ferrell and Ryan Seacrest movie, Spirited.
Reynolds.
I know.
Reynolds.
I just like to rib him a little bit. He hates it when I say that.
Does Will Ferrell get nude in this one too? I understand he likes to get nude in his movies.
I don't believe he gets nude.
Like, we want to see his butt.
I tuned out long before any of that would have happened. But it is the whole premise is, okay, we did it. We did it with Scrooge. And then we're going to do it with other people. And then of course Ryan Reynolds is the ultimate modern Scrooge, and hilarity ensues. Of 2,090 ratings of this Audible book, a 4.9 star rating. I've never seen such a good rating on any book, even the best.
It's shocking you see some 4.5s when you look at the ratings.
Like, what the hell? It's just perfect.
It's kind of a perfect thing.
It's perfect.
It turns out that you just keep seeing Ebenezer show up every once in a while.
Yeah. Here's Christina says, it's not Christmas without this audiobook. Captain Picard saves the day. Perfection. Oh, that's why it got downgraded a little bit, because it's a little bit abridged. The original has subtle ties that are skipped. Perfection. Excellent. Patrick Stewart is brilliant. Outstanding. Excellent. Not the entire story.
Yeah, exactly. God dang it. Thank you very much. At least but see, this is why, like, if I ever were doing like a store with user rankings, as soon as anybody puts in a one-star review of anything, they're immediately banned. So that's when you read not the entire story incomplete, not an unbridged story. It stopped before any of the ghosts appeared terrible. Maybe he got a defective copy, but like usually when it's 1 star, it's like 1 star. It's not he left out the scene in which they show like the scraggly little kids who are starvation and want. Like, so basically 1 star out of 5. So you're saying that if Patrick Stewart for an hour and a half just read, "You Thomas Eagleton are an idiot. You're a moron. Everybody hates you. You're ugly and you smell," you could not have given it a lower rating than this. Just the fact that they cut that one scene that you like, 1 star. No, thank you. Anyway.
Alex Lindsay, do you have a pick of the week?
I have one quick one, and then I have a pick. It's the season, and someone in our office hours. So this is great. So Greg Swyek in our office hours is a Santa Claus. If you go to Santa Kringle LLC, he does Santa over Zoom, and he started during it's funny. I just had dinner with him in Pittsburgh, and he just emits Santa. So anyway, you've got he has gone crazy with this. It's worth checking out, even if you're not going to.
Kids are so lucky
Santa.
today; they can actually meet Santa.
Yeah,
on Zoom.
He's got Unreal Engine going on, and he's got green screen, and he feeds.
Well, of course, he's Santa. I mean, he can do anything.
Like he feeds the reindeer, and he's got like all kinds of little physical things that he's figured out, and he works on it all. I swear he works on it all year.
There he is, Santa in his workshop.
He is doing his thing, and he's got
Rudolph.
And so
is that forced perspective, or is that?
No, it's a
Oh, it is. Okay,
green screen nice. over that. Yeah, and so he gets into all of these, and kids really love it. And
Mrs. Claus makes it, or no, that's an elf, the cookie baking elf. Yeah, nice.
So anyway, it's a lot of fun. You should check it out.
Oh, and Starship Santa. Wow.
Yeah, it's worth checking out. He's constantly working on. He's in our after hours all the time, figuring things out. Like, okay, how do
Kringle
I do this?
LLC.com. SANTA KRINGLE LLC.com. And you've spoiled it now, but that's what we're going to do for our holiday party this year. We're going to get you all a Zoom.
Yeah, we'll hang out with Kringle.
I should have him come on the holiday show.
You should have him come on. Absolutely.
Hey, would you hook us up? Because that'd be fun. We've got to do our holiday show December 15th, and it'd be fun if we just have an appearance from Santa. Would make it so much more fun.
We'll get Santa on there. So nice.
Nice. And then what's your other pick of the week?
So what was released? I've been beta testing this for almost 6 or 7 months. It just got released. Epic released Reality Scan. So Epic bought a company called Reality Capture, and so they and what they did is then built an iPhone app, and it's iOS only, and it's called Reality Scan, and it had been in private beta. They said first 10,000 people get to beta it, and I was one of the first 10,000, which means I was there for the first 4 minutes. I saw the announcement immediately. I knew that this was going to last 10 seconds. And so I jumped in. So I've been playing with it for a while. And what it does really well is it's got a great way to guide you through capturing an object and turning it into a 3D model. And it uses AR to kind of show you where the photos were that you shot. You get this little highlight of it has these little green dots where it says, okay, I have plenty of information for this area. I don't have enough information for that area. It all runs into the cloud. So you just sit there and, it pushes all these images up. You can put up to 200 images in, and it's just really well guided. And I think that, this and Polycam are the two that I play with the most on the phone. So if you're on the phone, these are the two, and this one's free. Polycam costs a little bit of money a month. And so this is going to be a big deal as we go into next year. I know we didn't talk about it much today, but VR and AR and XR are all going to be, something you're going to want to be able to figure out how to get geometry into what you're doing. And this is it's pretty cool to see where Epic's taking this. And so anyway, it's Reality Scan. I actually did a walkthrough of it as our second hour in office hours this morning. So if you want to see more information, you can go to office hours and check it out. We spent an hour, people asking questions and us talking about it in detail and everything else. And so, but we break it down and kind of show how it actually works, but it's pretty slick. It's a pretty slick thing.
You've mentioned a few apps that do this. Is this the one?
It's this and Polycam are both the two that these are the two, and it's free. So just download it and play with it.
Why not? Yeah.
And then Polycam is the other one that I use. And I use both of them probably in equal parts. Polycam I find a little easier if I'm trying to capture a room. And this one is a little bit more guided, and I find this one generates, I find a little slightly better geometry than Polycam. So, because it's more guided in that area. It can generate, basically what it does is it uploads the file when it finishes it uploads it to Sketchfab. So you have to have a Sketchfab account, which is free. And it'll put it up on Sketchfab. In fact, if you go to Alex B. Lindsay, I believe, in Sketchfab, you'll see some of the rough ones that I've done. I just put them up there. I'm like, okay, here's something. And some of them are pretty hard to do. Like if the ones that have a lot of detail that are not mechanical are pretty difficult to build 3D models of, and it does a pretty good job of it. So anyway, I think it's going to be, these are the two that I've seen that kind of are on the leaderboard of what's there. But what I really think they've done right in Reality Scan is the interface of showing you how to shoot the photo. It's, for someone like me, I've been doing photogrammetry for over 25 years. And so I kind of know what I'm looking for. But if you're not, having something that kind of guides you through that shooting process is pretty important. So
very good.
Yeah, it's cool.
Very good. It's free in the App Store. Reality Scan from Unreal. So it's the real deal.
If you want to see me talk about it for an hour, you can go to office hours because that's what I did this morning.
I'm going to mention this now because it's only a matter of time before it gets taken down. Search all Apple keynotes by entering a word or phrase. This is something actually I've needed for a long time because we're often talking about when did they announce, the iPhone 3GS, and now you can just search for it and pull up the keynote where it's mentioned in order. So this is a kind of a cool little thing. I guess it won't get taken down because it just links back to the Apple page, right? So it's probably okay. I don't know. It just seems like this is the kind of thing Apple hates. It's add context.xyz, and it's a way to search for any phrase in any Apple keynote in case you need it. And it'll even give you the time code so you know exactly, where the first appearance is and all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready to conclude our holiday episode, our first of many holiday episode. Andy Ihnatko, when are you going to be on GBH next?
Next Friday at 12:30 in the afternoon. Go to WGBHnews.org to stream the audio live or later, or go to WGBH News channel on YouTube to watch it live or later.
Nice. By the way, don't search for 5G on that Apple Keynotes thing because you just go crazy. It just breaks. Everybody should go to officehours.global because that's where the fun is every morning. In fact, all day long. Thanks to this guy right here, Alex Lindsay. Today, Reality Scan was the topic.
Yep. Yeah. And it's just, the second hours keep getting better. So we just have lots of, yesterday I was talking about business structure, so it jumps from the business end of things to the infrastructure things to graphics and sound. Wednesdays typically are, I think we're talking about.
I can't believe phase and polarity is going to be like a
whole hour. A whole hour on phase and polarity. Like that's, if you want to get your geek on deep. When it comes to audio and video, it's phase deep. And polarity.
That's very deep.
Yeah.
It's free. It's open to all. You can get an invitation to the Zoom if you want to ask questions, or you can just watch on YouTube. Best thing to do is go to officehours.global. And if you want to hire the best team in the world for producing live internet events, go to 090.media and say, ask for Alex. Tell him Leo sent you.
Exactly.
The best. If you want to look as good as Alex does on this show, that's the place to go. Jason Snell is at sixcolors.com. He has many, many podcasts, but he also writes all about Apple at sixcolors.com with Dan Moore. Plug a podcast. You got so many, I never know.
Yeah, let's plug Downstream because we just did an episode last week about the mini Bobs of Disney. Bob's coming and going.
Bob and
New
Bob.
CEO Bob's,
Yep.
old Bob's,
Yep.
all of that.
Yep.
And Julia Alexander is about the best person possible on the internet to talk about the details of what's going on with
She's
with
a
Disney.
media maven, right?
She is. She's on Neil A. Patel's podcast today talking about it. And I'll just say she's kind of just refining her points that she made last week on my podcast with her. So
slightly.
Anyway, it's if you care about like the business of streaming, we were talking about Apple TV earlier and about what's going on with Disney and all the other stuff that's in the world of streaming, the business side of streaming. She is so smart, and I'm just happy to be there as a conduit to get her intelligence out on the internet.
It's nice to get somebody who's an expert. She's the director of strategy at Parrot.
Yeah, and she's writing for Puck, and she's all over the place now because she is a real specialist in this. And she used to work at The Verge. She gets our people, but she also like really gets the streaming business, which is I think one of the most interesting stories in technology right now is like the how technology has eaten the entertainment industry and turned it into this new streaming business. Yeah.
I pay $100 a year to read her stuff on puck.news along with Baratunde and all the others.
Yeah, there's really good stuff there.
I love Puck. It's inexpensive, but it's a treat.
It is.
It's a treat.
It is, but it's very good.
Yeah. Thank you so much, all three of you. We do MacBreak. Thanks to you for watching. We do MacBreak Weekly We record it every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC. And because we have a live stream running as we record it, you can watch us record it live. Wonder what these things are in front of me. We do this every year, and it's antlers, but if you don't see the deer's head, it looks like I'm roasting in silver flames of hell. I don't know what it is. It's just very strange.
It looks like you're driving a Cadillac, and that's one of your custom hood ornaments, like a big Texan, like 1971 Elvis Cadillac.
We can't really figure out what to do with this, but I think it's perfect right here. It leads the way. So that's the kind of thing you get when you watch live. Live.twit.tv. There's live audio and video there. There's if you're watching live, chat live at irc.twit.tv. And I put in a little plug. You can also chat with us in our Discord. If you're not yet a member of Club Twit, it's not the only reason to join Club Twit, but to get the ad-free versions of all the shows, to get the access to the Discord, plus the Twit Plus feed with Hands on Macintosh with Micah Sargent, which we don't put out as a public podcast or just occasionally put out publicly. Yeah, but there's many more episodes. Hands on Windows with Paul Thurrott, the Untitled Linux Show, and Jonathan Bennett, and lots of great stuff in the Twit Plus feed. And frankly, I don't want to get all PBS-y about this, but the members who support us through Club Twit really are doing important work. It really makes us happy, but it also keeps us going. It pays the light bill. Twit.tv/clubtwit. If you're not yet a member, please consider it. And it would be a wonderful holiday gift if you've got a geek in your life. There's a yearly plan. Just give them a year's worth. It's a nice thing to do for us and for them. Twit.tv/clubtwit. Plus, you get all the animated GIFs.
At least it's not Scrappy Doo. That's all we ask.
That's all we ask.
Have some taste.
If you don't get here for the live show, you can download a copy at twit.tv/mbw. Of course, there's a YouTube channel dedicated to MacBreak Weekly. And best thing to do probably is subscribe in your favorite podcast client. That way you get it automatically. It also supports free and open RSS podcasting as opposed to the silos of Spotify and iHeart and Amazon and so forth and so on. So we like that too. So get Pocket Casts or Apple's Podcasts or Google Podcasts and subscribe. It will make everybody happy. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Now get back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye.
I'm Jason Howell. What do you get your favorite geek who already has everything? Well, I know just the thing. It's a Club Twit gift subscription, of course. Twit podcasts keep them informed and entertained with the most relevant tech news and podcasts available. And with a Club Twit subscription, they get even more. They get access to all of our podcasts ad-free, the members-only Discord, exclusive outtakes, behind the scenes and special content, and exclusive shows like Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows, and the Untitled Linux Show. You can purchase your geek's gift at twit.tv/clubtwit, and they're going to thank you every day for it.